Don't need that. Do need these. Well, hello. Welcome once again to Stuff and Things, where I like to talk about stuff and occasionally even things. I'm your good friend Bradley, and today is a Sunday Stuff and Things. And on this Sunday Stuff and Things, we have stuff and things to talk about, including upcoming videos, things you can look forward to on Stuff and Things and Working. We're going to talk a little bit more about that Leonard Wortzel video or the interview on Big Apple pipes. I will still include a link in the description box below to the original video. I watched the whole thing. Not a whole lot more to say about it, but I did watch the whole thing. And then I have a topic, kind of a little mini rant. It's meant in good fun, but it was inspired by a comment I got recently on YouTube. A common thread, well, not that common, but it comes up every once in a while about how maybe I'm not saying something correctly, maybe Americans in general don't say certain things correctly. So we'll get into that. It'll be a fun little rant. And then we have your questions, comments, and feedback in hashtag #AskStuffandThings. Let's get into it. All right, so what can you look forward to on Stuff and Things and Working? First of all, yeah, this coming week will be a video on my first time trying to develop black and white film, 35mm film, at home. Spoilers, it works, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty fun. It's not that hard to do. And I am really enjoying now self-developing film. I don't love the scanning process. I'm doing kind of a camera scan with my digital camera with a what would you even call it? It's not a copy stand, but it's a mount that I can put on top of my macro lens, and it's kind of a pain in the butt. But the actual developing part is super fun and pretty easy, and it's kind of revolutionized the whole taking pictures with my film camera thing now, because I don't have to send my film away and wait a couple weeks, well, about a week to get them back. Now, as soon as I finish a roll, I can just develop it and see what I've got. And that's pretty cool. So that video is coming up. The week after that, we will be having the review of this beautiful little pipe, the Eagle and Child Ent Rusticated Billiard, sent to me by our good friend AJ Khaled from Eagle and Child. Cool pipe. You should definitely check out that video coming up the week after. And then the week after that, we will be reviewing my latest camera bag. I've been collecting these. This is the Domke F6 little bit smaller shoulder bag. And this has become my new everyday bag. I was carrying the Domke F10 everywhere. I did a review on that not too long ago. And it's perfect for one camera. This is when I need two cameras, and lately I've been taking my film camera and my little Fuji digital camera with me wherever I go. So I needed a little bit more space, and this has provided it for me. Fantastic bag. I love these Domke bags. So check out that video coming up as well. And then on Working, we'll have a new episode this Friday. It is Working episode 43, and it's pouring four footings for foundations that we are going to be doing. It's finally that giant job that I've been talking about for months. 12 houses in a development. We're doing all the footings and the foundations and eventually the garage slabs and the driveways for these houses. Had been waiting for them to go forever. They finally were starting to go. Then there are all sorts of issues, but we're finally going on them. So check out that video this Friday as well. Lots of good stuff coming up on both channels. All right, gang. So I watched the rest of that video on Big Apple pipes. Again, link in the description box below. Definitely be sure you check out the original interview. And there wasn't too much more in there. I think the little precis that Mike N on Pipes Mag's forum does a really good job of summarizing what's in the video. What I gained from watching it was mostly just that Leonard Wortzel seems like a likable person, and I think he's doing his best in a difficult situation. I still am not on the side of STG. I don't really like the decisions that they have made, but I don't necessarily hold anything against Leonard Wortzel. There's still some interesting information he was talking about. I think it was HH Old Dark Fire that will still be available in Germany, but not in the US. Certain blends seem to be based on, their availability seems to be based on specific markets. So it sounds like Europe is still going to get more of the older McFadin blends than the US does. I don't necessarily know why. I don't know if that's going to be permanent or if that might change in the future. So there wasn't a whole lot of other clarity that Mr. Wortzel gave, but it's worth checking out. But I think most of the main points you will probably already have heard. But definitely, I don't know. I think it's just going to take some time for all this to shake out. I'm hoping that in a couple years, maybe some of these McFadin blends, especially the HH line blends, might be available in the US again, but we don't know that for sure. And I'm still hearing conflicting things about the Peterson blends. I think maybe in some markets, they already seem to have discontinued the Dunhill-Peterson blends, or the formerly Dunhill, currently Peterson blends in some markets. I think they may be cutting them off in other markets as well. What I've heard, it seems as though they're still going to be available in the US, but I just don't know for sure. I don't have clarity on that. Let's hope they're safe, at least in the US. I wish they were safe everywhere, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens. All right, gang. I had a comment recently. This is from @Eric Stevens, and I don't even know if Eric Stevens was being serious here, so Eric Stevens, if you're watching, don't take this personally. But they say, I don't know how this word is pronounced, and he spells out Latakia, Latakia, as we say, but I know for sure it's not the white man version, Latakia. So I say Latakia. Pretty much everyone in the pipe hobby says Latakia. And I get comments like this sometimes where people very snootily inform me that I might not be saying a word right. I do have a tendency, based upon my childhood growing up with George Bush saying nuclear, that occasionally I still say nuclear, and occasionally people will correct me and tell me to say nuclear, which I try to do, and that's fair enough. If I'm saying, I don't know, if I said apple, if I was describing eating an apple and I said apple, it might make sense for someone to correct my pronunciation or the emphasis that I'm placing, because that's just not something that's in common usage. But the other day, someone was correcting the way I say reservoir. Like, reservoir? Why are you saying it like that? That's a weird situation. I'm saying it the way most people say it. If it's in common usage, if it's based upon my dialect, I just speak standard kind of basic American English. Anyway, I don't really mind if people correct me if it's something that needs to be corrected. But when people get snooty about it, I find it kind of irritating. Latakia is a word that has been taken into the pipe hobby through British people and American people, the way we pronounce it. I know that if you're talking about the city in Syria, it is Latakia. At least that's the way newscasters say it. I don't know if people in Syria actually pronounce it that way, but I know it's not Latakia. But when we're talking about the component in pipe blends, we say Latakia. That's just the convention. That's what has developed over probably hundreds of years of people enjoying this hobby. So even though I know it is Latakia, I'm not going to say Latakia. Oh, this blend has a lot of burley and Latakia. It's just not the way we mostly say it. We mostly say Latakia. And this delves into so many other realms where people get really snooty about pronunciation and think that they get one over on you. Now, I got my papers flying all over the place. One of the things that I have noticed is that people often accuse Americans of pronouncing foreign words incorrectly. And I take issue with this because I think Americans actually do a pretty damn good job with that. And even if we don't pronounce everything perfectly, like think of coyote, for instance. I don't know why Americans say coyote. It should be coyote. But no American says that unless they're an American of like Hispanic origin or something. I don't know why we say coyote. But if I ran around saying coyote, people would look at me weird because that's not the way we say it. I know how it's supposed to be pronounced, but that's not how we pronounce it. Another good example is just like Spanish words that have made it into common parlance in the US, like a burrito or a corona. I'm not going to say burrito and corona. And karaoke is a great example. Again, I have no idea based on the spelling why Americans say karaoke. It should be karaoke if you're pronouncing it the way a Japanese person pronounces it. I know how it's supposed to be pronounced. but I'm not going to walk around saying, hey, let's go get some burritos and drink some Corona. And afterwards, we can go sing karaoke. But we should be careful because I've heard that there are some rabid coyotes roaming the countryside. I would sound like a maniac. I'm not going to speak that way. So you don't need to correct me. I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the snooty people. Now, I love British people. I love English people. I'm a little bit of an Anglophile. But there does seem to be this tendency amongst a certain segment of the English population, I'm talking about people who live in England, who want to think that they own the English language. They want to say that Americans pronounce certain English words incorrectly. Even though Americans are native English speakers, they like to say that Americans aren't saying things right. They have that weird attitude of like, you know, we invented the language, innit? But that's not how it works. Languages are ever-changing. Languages belong to whomever speaks the language, basically. You don't own the English language. So that's a whole other topic, talking about Americans supposedly mispronouncing English words. But a lot of British people seem to, or a lot of English people seem to like to accuse Americans of mispronouncing foreign words. And that is a dangerous game to play, English people, because my God, do you guys pronounce some words in a really weird way. I was watching this video about a Nikon camera and a Nikon lens, and a very snooty English person was like, oh, Leonard, I'm going to be talking about this Nikon lens. And he said, yes, Americans, it's Nikon, not Nikon, the way you all pronounce it. And he was very, very snooty about it. Okay, first of all, buddy, it's not Nikon. It's Nikon, if you want to pronounce it the way a Japanese person says it, not Nikon. And it's not Nikon either. I understand that. But in America, that is what we were taught to say. That is how Nikon advertises their cameras in the US. They say, oh, buy this new Nikon camera. They don't say Nikon. So that's the way we say it, because that's what we were taught to say. And I'm not going to run around saying Nikon when I'm talking about a Nikon camera, because everyone will think I'm an idiot. So he was very snooty about this. And if British people want to start playing this game, why don't we get into how you pronounce Mazda or Nissan when you say Mazda and Nissan? Let's not even get into all the French words that you brutalize in your pronunciation. I've heard so many British people say buffet when they mean buffet, or a fillet of fish. It's insane. Let's go jump into my Mazda. We'll go to the all-you-can-eat buffet and have a fillet of fish, why don't we? We could put it on a tortilla while we're there, and then maybe after that we'll go reconnect with my old lieutenant from the army. Lieutenant? Where the hell do you get lieutenant from? When you look at the word lieutenant, where does lieutenant come from? So British people, pot calling the kettle black. I should say English people, pot calling the kettle black. You don't want to play this game. It is a very dangerous game, and you will lose if you start trying to play this game. The other one they bring up all the time is Adidas. They say, it's Adidas. Like, okay, I understand that, but when Adidas advertises their products in the US, they say Adidas. That's what I was taught to say. That's what all Americans say. If I ran around saying Adidas, even though I know that's how it's supposed to be pronounced, people would think I was a maniac. That has been my rant. Thank you for listening. All right, gang, but now it is time for hashtag #AskStuffandThings. Remember, if you have a question for me and you would like it answered on the Sunday Stuff and Things, you can tweet at SATBradley with the hashtag #AskStuffandThings, or you can go to Patreon. If you are a Patreon supporter, write to me via Patreon and go right to the front of the line. You can hit that super thanks button under this video and go right to the front of the line, or you can leave questions, comments, and feedback under my YouTube videos in the comments section. How are we doing on time here? We're okay. So, first of all, we have some feedback from last week's Sunday Stuff and Things. This is a super thanks from @DanG1979. Thank you, Dan, so much. Dan says, I hope you get that interview. Probably not going to get that interview with Leonard. I would want to know the plan for the old Dunhill blends. I'd still like to know that as well. If they are planning to keep making flake and coin cut teas, and if they plan to stop using Mac Baron's bitey chemicals when they're reformulated. Yeah, that's kind of the funny thing, is that I liked a lot of the HH line, but I didn't love a lot of the other McFadin blends, and not that they're really producing any of those anyway, especially not in the US, but if they ever do reformulate any of those blends, I'm wondering how they'll taste, because I like a lot of STG blends. A lot of them are good. At Aeronati, okay, let me get this right. Aeronatidel Tabacco della Pipa. Della Pipa? Thank you for the super thanks. Says, I watched the video by Claudio. For us Italians, il pipotote in America. Talking about pronouncing foreign words, huh? The pipe esser in America. Some things seem very strange to me, like why continue the production of vintage Latakia, or Latakia, for the Italian market, source pipe esser in America video, but stop distributing it in the German market. Source Cigar World. Does he really want us to believe that the Sutliff machinery was destroyed because it was obsolete and not transportable? Apparently the machinery still exists, and it's possible that it might get sold. Why wasn't the possibility of finding an investor interested in preserving Sutliff's know-how considered? Why wasn't a worker buyout attempted? Grazie, the Percy. All good questions. At Jens Anderson 1973 says, HH Old Dark Fired will continue. You just have to buy it in Germany, which is what I've been hearing as well. They will have mini blends. First impressions is a good thing. Continue with them, please. I will. Yeah, and I can't believe, and obviously they have internal documentation, but I just find it hard to believe that HH Old Dark Fired would do better in Germany than it would in the US. The US market is so much bigger. I don't know. It just seems strange. At Toferio7473 says, okay, I just watched a good chunk of the interview. The most important takeaways. In Italy, they will maintain HH Latakia Flake, and in Germany, they will maintain HH Latakia and Old Dark Fired. There is almost a 99.9% chance that they will bring back some blends from the Sutliff McFadin lines that they had planned to cut from the US and worldwide markets down the line. They plan to gather feedback from all pipe tea retailers and will likely launch surveys for pipe essers as well, and let the takeover settle into production before that happens. So my guess is selected blends may resurface 2 to 3 years after the takeover, but not a ton of them, only the most purchased ones. Yeah, that seems to kind of be what's going on. We'll just have to wait quite a while probably to see how it all shakes out. We have a comment from at Ricardo, isn't this the same person? No. Ricardo Gadella, 5003, who says, I love Radar already. Cute dog that came to say hello to me in the last video. And at Corbin Bourbon 1194 says, gotta say, I really dig the outdoor Sunday videos now. The interactions, visuals, and sounds are nice. As I record this inside my apartment. I apologize, but I had to do an indoor video because I was talking about my camera bag. Next, at Mr. Zardos 3344 says, I enjoy your first impressions videos as well as your review videos on the same tea products. Not only is it a reference and record for your own use, but allows us to see trends, differences, and other oddities in our teas. Thank you for that feedback. And then finally, we have some feedback from CND 8 State Burley 2022 review. This is at Church Ether, who says, lighting one up and just got this in my notification. Great stuff. By the way, I just cellared up on Samuel Gawith's Full Virginia Flake. And to my astonishment, the moisture was day-old croissant. Can you believe it? It's from 2021. And some say the new tins they use make the tea dry out quicker. Something to think about. Yeah, I've heard the same. I've experienced a little bit of the same. The old Gawith category for moisture content, that was even higher than, what was it? Moist Towelette. I think Gawith was the highest. I don't think that applies anymore. It doesn't seem like their blends are coming as wet. At BHTD9TO says, you had me until you mentioned vanilla. I can't tolerate any teas with a vanilla topping. I'm normally the same, but 8 State Burley, it works. And it's not overly strong. It's just a hint. It works. At Markinry, I don't know, 1877 says, glad you enjoyed the blend. For me, I'm done with limited release blends, just a cash grab. As to drugstore codger blends, it all depends on the blend. Some are not overly topped. After all, a lot of them have been around for 50 to 100 years. Guaranteed 8 State Burley won't be. Yeah, probably not. But it was good. I liked it. At Rurika 8118, if I was saying that as though it were Japanese, it would be Rurika, but I don't know if it's Japanese, so it doesn't matter. I keep it up for the viewers up. Keep it up for the viewers up here in Canada. Essing 8th state in the 51st state. I think what? 8th state Burley. Yeah. Okay. So I got part of this cut off, but I think he's referring to something about Trump wanting Canada to be another state. I don't know. And then at Groovin' Piper says, when I tried this when it first came out, I cracked the tin and loaded a bowl and was not impressed. Then I picked it back up after jarring it up about 4 months later. I don't know why I can't read today. And I loved it. Really nice with a cup of coffee. I've been calling it a top shelf codger blend. That's a good way to describe it. Take care, good friend Bradley. Thanks again for another excellent review. Thank you, Groovin' Piper, for sharing your feelings on 8 State Burley. Gang, thank you for all that feedback. Please keep it coming in. It really helps make the show go. But now, I need to wet my whistle. It's time for the very best part of the show, and that is where we thank our Patreon supporters. Remember, if you would like to support the channels on Patreon, there is a link in the description box below, and it is much appreciated. It's pretty much the only way I can make any income from doing these videos, and it basically makes it possible for me to continue to do these videos. So if you like anything I do and you want to keep it going, you can help out on Patreon, link in the description box below. $5 a month would be amazing. But every week we shout out those who support the channels at $25 or more a month, the producers of Stuff and Things. People like Jason Buckner, Arcturus, Ashes of the Phoenix, Jonathon Proctor, The Friendly Piper, GreatGrol, and Glenn. Just Glenn. And of course the Maniacs, the crazy people who support the channels at $100 a month. People like Bob Magee and my good friend, Ryan McFadin. And of course, we'll never forget the Hall of Fame member and dearly departed friend, Peter Straub. Gang, please stay tuned for all the good stuff coming up on Stuff and Things and Working. I'm especially excited for you to see, well, maybe. I'm excited for you to see, I want you to watch it. I want you to watch all the videos, but I'm excited to show you the film developing video. It's weird because it's not like a how-to, because I didn't feel like I could do a how-to when I was doing it for the very first time. I just find it personally fascinating that, like, oh, you can buy a couple chemicals and like a developing tank and you can just develop black and white film at home very simply. It's not hard and it's really cool and I really like it. So you should watch that video. And then the Eagle and Child pipe, fantastic. Check that out as well. And of course, the Domke F6, a little bit smaller bag. I got it really dirty. Got it very dirty at work. A fantastic camera bag. And then of course, Working episode 43. Lots more good stuff coming up on both channels. But until next time, until we meet again, I'm your good friend Bradley. You've been the audience. This has been Stuff and Things on a Sunday. Stuff and Things. I'll see you later.